That is the staff presentation. What I would like to do, Madam Mayor and Council, is I would like to invite Barbara Lowenthal, who is the president of the Pearl Chase Society, to come up and provide her comments, and then we can answer questions that you may have. I think you may have questions for either staff or for Barbara. Barbara really was the most knowledgeable person on the whole process, all the work that they did, and involved with the development of the house usage plan and all of that. So between the two of us, we should be able to answer any questions that you might have.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'm Barbara Lowenthal. I'm the current president of the Pearl Chase Society and was president of the Pearl Chase Society when we were going through all the review with the city. I'd like to thank Nancy Rapp and Santos Escobar for all the years that they've been with us on this project. They've been really instrumental in helping us. And more recently, Jeff Miller, who once he took residence in the caretaker's cottage, all of a sudden the house was less of a nuisance as far as we were concerned. So we have a great big thank you to Jeff. We do not agree with the demolition of the house. We will never agree to the demolition of this house. Those of you who walked through yesterday saw a house that you thought was greatly deteriorated. I saw a house that looked very similar to the last time I was in it, a little over 3 years ago. It somehow withstood the earthquake that you all saw a video of, and it has somehow withstood everything and is still standing today. It is not Dr. Franceschi's original house. We know that. It is not a house that has great architectural merit. We never said it did. What we said it was a slice of the soul of this community. And how could we not want to save that? For us, it was a tremendous gift from Alden Freeman, and he should be celebrated along with Dr. Franceschi, which is what we set out to do. We have a long history of partnering with the city. More recently, we funded all of the barricades along Anapamu Street, every single one of them. The city planning department has benefited from us as well, and we want to continue that relationship. Of course, the Pearl Chase Society is always ready to partner with the city of Santa Barbara to preserve our historic structures and landscapes. That's our challenge and our love.
Thank you. Why don't you stay right there, because I think there are going to be a bunch of questions. I'm going to start with one, perhaps for both of you. First off, thank you for your leadership with the Pearl Chase Society. And how much was pledged for the rest? And take aside the restoration and the building stuff, but you know, when you were going through the process to raise funds to restore the house.
By the time that Nancy and I started looking at everything between the pledges that we had, which was not money in hand, but pledges, and the donations we had, we were at 45% of our goal of the $2.5 million.
Okay.
So a little over 900,000. I think it was 949, something like that.
Okay.
Nancy,
So about $1 million or more
right.
or less.
Well, the board has said that they would agree to work with the city to come up with an alternate project, but we do not agree to the demolition of the house. To us, the best thing would be to say, extend the time about what should happen with this, work together with the Pearl Chase Society, the Historic Landmarks Commission, and other folks who are still interested in Franceschi House to come back to the council with something that is a truly concrete, viable alternative. So it might be an entirely different project that we come to you with if we still have the house standing while we have a chance to look at it and use it and develop something from there. I think we would be more successful in coming up with an alternative project if the house were still standing and we could get people engaged in talking about it.
Mr. White.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not much of a speaker, and I think all of these people who are speaking here are doing a much better job than I could ever do. My son is so keen on keeping this house alive. We just hope you make the right decision. Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council. I'm a preservation architect for the last 15 years, traveling all the country, working for FEMA as a disaster area employee. I've got a master's of science in historic preservation and from the Art Institute of Chicago. And I believe to think of demolition before you think of stabilization is a big mistake. I think there's, you're already going to spend $2 to $3 million just stabilizing the property. I believe it'd be silly to tear it down before you even bother to do that. You've got $140,000 that are coming back from the Pearl Chase that you could be used to stabilize it and address understandable concerns of the local community. If it's not a fire hazard and it's not falling down on its own, it's been there for 100 years and no one's done anything for 50, and it seems to be holding up pretty good. So I would just argue that to demolish it is a mistake. Preservation, conservation, reuse, you don't have to make a decision now. You just have to make a decision not to demolish it now. And that's a pretty simple decision to make. Thank you.
William.
Hello, I'm Susan Chamberlain, and I'm a landscape historian. I've put in many, many years on various committees to try to save the house and the park. And I have to disagree with the fact that some people think it's not historically or architecturally relevant or significant. I think you need to recognize that those conclusions were made in the 80s before vernacular architecture studies were underway, and a current architectural historian, and I do have an MA in architectural history, would disagree with those conclusions.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, my name is Rick Clausen. I've lived in Santa Barbara since 1984. I want to speak on the importance of Alden Freeman. Without the foresight of Alden Freeman, we would not be here today. The Fenzi property would have been sold and developed over the decades. There would be no park. In the 1920s, Alden Freeman was a multimillionaire when that meant something. He was a socialist when that really meant something. And he was gay when that meant he was happy. He was a philanthropist who funded public amenities in Enfield, Connecticut, East Orange, New Jersey, as well as in Santa Barbara. He recognized the significance of Franceschi's horticultural importance decades before any real public interest and understanding of it. Freeman modified the original Franceschi homestead in ways that may not please everyone, but he added his own stamp of history to the house. There are approximately 85 sculptural elements mounted on the house and nearby structures. Each one represents a unique historic topic, ranging from Cleopatra through the First World War and the following decade. I would hope that whatever the decision is made on the disposition of the house, a high priority is placed on the preservation or the public reuse of the Monterroso medallions.
I mean, the fundamental question people seem to be asking is, how much is it going to cost to tear it down versus not? And it's a big number that you've been talking about tearing it down. We don't have the money to tear it down either. So, I mean, ironically, keeping it in place and maintaining it as it is today is the cheapest option we have on the table. And I think that's probably what we're going to end up doing. But, you know, bring us back some more information and we'll be able to get into this more. So that's... Okay. I don't think the Pearl Chase Society has been the problem in this discussion in any way, shape, or form. And I think that needs to be really clear. I don't think they need a deadline. I think they have been trying to do their best under very difficult circumstances. And I think that that's what our Parks Department has said as well. This is a partnership and a collaboration that's been very successful. It didn't result the way we all want it to be, but that sometimes doesn't happen. And we're going to just go forward in that spirit.